I usually try to finish games that I intend to review, just to hedge against my opinion changing for whatever reason. In the case of Afterimage, I almost decided to write my review before finishing the game. Something just wasn't clicking with me, but I persevered, finished the game, and did find that most of my initial opinions changed for the better. But despite these improvements, I did find that my core opinions of the game were largely unchanged by the end. Afterimage is a hand-drawn, side-scrolling metroidvania where you play as Renee, a young woman who's accompanied by a small, imp-like companion named Ifri. The game begins with Renee and Ifri in the Rubywood Desert on a mission from her village, where the game takes you through a tutorial of the controls. Making their way back to the village, Renee is attacked by a strange wolf that Ifri recognizes as blessed with a strange power. During a scripted loss, Renee is defeated but wakes up at a confluence of stream near her village. In the world of Afterimage, when a person dies, their soul travels through the stream to the Sea of Souls, where it rests and returns to the planet. Casting aside her confusion, Renee reveals to the player that she's lost her memory prior to the game starting, and her mentor Eros has been helping her figure out who she is and why she possesses the gift to emerge from confluences in the event of her death. Continuing to the village, it's then revealed that it's been attacked and destroyed. After finding traces that Eros is still alive, Renee sets out to find her mentor. Gameplay in Afterimage is typical of the genre, with platforming and attacking enemies with an arsenal of different weapons. You have a dash that can be used while grounded and airborne, and the ability to hover slightly during aerial attacks, which provides depth to platforming. Your dash has no invincibility, so it's often used to cross gaps, quickly traverse straight passages, and dash away from or above the heads of enemies. There's also RPG elements, such as an equipment system and a talent tree that allows you to build Renee to fit your playstyle. At your disposal are 6 different types of melee weapons, and you're able to equip 2 at a time. Each weapon has a unique attack style that covers different amounts of space, such as swords having a mid-range sweeping arc, and the whip having a long-range precise hitbox. You also have sub-weapons for casting different types of elemental spells, and there are nodes in the talent tree that increase specific types of damage and unlock skills for each weapon type. Talent points for unlocking these nodes are most commonly acquired through leveling up by gathering experience from defeating monsters or interacting with certain points of interest throughout the game. You can also acquire talent points as rewards for exploring the map or purchasing them from certain NPCs with dues, the game's currency. Throughout the world are confluences of stream that act as checkpoints where you can rest to replenish health and respawn enemies. There are also unique confluences called main streams that are visualized as more mature trees both in the overworld and on the map. You're able to fast travel between main streams by interacting with them, or you can fast travel to any confluence from the map using a resting potion. Personally, I'm not sure I understand the need for this separation of confluences or the need for a consumable item to fast travel, especially when the first merchant you encounter has an unlimited stock of resting potions that can be bought with dues. Afterimage is advertised as non-linear, and it's true that you're free to explore the areas available to you, but it's technically an inaccurate description because specific skills or items are needed to continue the main questline. These items are often found by defeating bosses you encounter while exploring specific areas. Boss fights in Afterimage are hit or miss in my opinion, with many feeling difficult only because you're underleveled, and the rest feeling trivial because you're overleveled. The freedom of exploration that Afterimage has coupled with its very large world is commendable, but while exploring that world, I began to notice some problems. Almost immediately, you're teased with obstacles that require an ability you obtain later in the game, such as platforms being just out of reach, hinting at a double jump, or rickety floors suggesting a ground strike will break them. This is encouraging because it gives you a hint of what's to come in the game, but in practice, Afterimage leans heavily on a left-to-right design. This means while certain areas have more vertical layouts, ultimately you need to travel to the right to progress and will rarely return to older areas unless you choose to do so. When I did return to these obstacles, I found they typically contained dead ends with collectibles that quickly became dull as I found they were often items I didn't feel the need to use, or most commonly currency I didn't feel the need to spend. The traversal abilities you receive are also uninspired in my opinion. They tend to not introduce any interesting mechanics and, when examined closely, amount to just having additional jumps. Early on, there were several sections where I felt I was being forced to take the long way through an area because I couldn't jump a few inches higher to reach a ledge. Finally getting the double jump was a breath of fresh air, but as I acquired more traversal abilities, I couldn't shake the feeling that they were becoming subtractive rather than additive. What I mean by this is that these abilities most often enabled me to skip long, previously mandatory paths, rather than allowing me to reach optional, previously inaccessible paths. I think these elements highlight an inherent flaw in the way Afterimage is designed. The areas are so large and spread out that they begin to feel sparse or empty. Without hard transitions through an area, enemies will often follow you for long periods of time, forcing you to defeat them, and if you don't rest at a confluence, they won't respawn. As a result, the scenery begins to lose its charm as you walk through long, empty stretches with the same platforms and slopes being repeated over and over, which is further exacerbated by side paths being long dead ends or one-way passages that often put you back at the start of a long, previously explored section. Another issue that I have is how stiff Afterimage feels to play. There are many instances where you lose your forward momentum, such as starting a grounded attack or in the last frames of your dash. Taking damage also interrupts any attack you are currently doing, and there are several weapon skills with movement elements. This can result in situations where after performing a weapon skill, your hurt box collides with an enemy's before the attack finishes, injuring you and canceling your attack. Some enemy attacks are so large and fast that you can't effectively avoid them on reaction, especially since your dash has no invincibility. This forces you to guess if a specific attack is coming, and if wrong, you'll often end up taking damage multiple times from these attacks. This is especially prevalent with late-game bosses, where I assume the intent is to have them be challenging, but instead they feel cheap and test how many healing items you have rather than how skilled you are in the combat mechanics. All that being said, there are some interesting and well-executed ideas in Afterimage. The names of areas are initially unknown and represented with glyphs, but interacting with points of interest or talking to NPCs can reveal the true names of locations. This is a great device that supplements the plot point of Renee having lost her memory, and makes finding new areas interesting. The amount of area and enemy diversity is also impressive, with each area having its own aesthetic and a set of enemies with unique attack patterns, all supplemented by Afterimage's excellent art style and music. Afterimage felt like it had great potential with its hand-drawn art direction and huge world to explore, but I don't think it utilizes the potential of its world and ends up feeling sparse. While there are some great ideas, the good is unfortunately weighed down by the tedium that Afterimage creates, both in forced repetition of already explored paths and the large gaps between plot points, which do encourage exploration but make the emptiness of the world palpable. It does have a long playtime, tons of items to collect, and multiple endings if those are things you care about, but a majority of my time spent in Afterimage was frustratedly traversing the same sections of areas and wishing that the game would do something to keep my interest. Thanks for watching, take care, and remember, keep having fun.